So I want you to picture two people. Person A works a corporate job making $70,000 a year. Person B freelances and makes $110,000 a year. If you asked most people who's doing better financially, they'd say person B without even thinking about it. More money, obviously better, right? Except person B might actually be in a way more fragile financial position than person A. And that's the trap I want to talk about today. Because I think a lot of freelancers, myself included at certain points, fall into this exact same pattern. We chase the bigger number on the invoice, and we completely ignore the fact that the number on the invoice is not the same thing as security. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly why that happens. We're going to go through the categories where freelance income quietly leaks out before it ever becomes real wealth. And then at the end, I'm going to give you an actual framework for how to fix it. Let's get into it.
When you're a W-2 employee, that salary number is mostly the real number. Sure, taxes get taken out, but your employer is handling half of your payroll tax. They're probably giving you health insurance, maybe a 401k match, paid time off. The number on your offer letter is pretty close to the truth. When you're a freelancer, the number on your invoice is not the truth. It's the starting point of a subtraction problem. And most freelancers don't actually sit down and do that subtraction, so they end up feeling like they make good money while somehow never having any of it. Let's go through where it actually goes. This is the first place freelance income disappears, and it disappears faster than most people expect. As a W-2 employee, you and your employer split what's called payroll tax, which covers Social Security and Medicare, so you're each paying about 7.65%. As a freelancer, you're both the employee and the employer, so you're paying the whole 15.3% yourself. That's called self-employment tax, and it's on top of your regular income tax. So if you're a freelancer making $110,000, before you even get to income tax brackets, you could be looking at over $15,000 just in self-employment tax alone. Add federal and state income tax on top of that, and it's pretty common for freelancers to owe 30% or more of their income to taxes total. Here's the part that trips people up though. Nobody is withholding that for you automatically. There's no HR department taking a chunk out of every paycheck. That means you have to pay quarterly estimated taxes yourself. And if you don't set that money aside as it comes in, you will absolutely get a surprise bill in April that can wipe out your savings in one shot. I've talked to freelancers who made great money all year and then had an actual panic moment in tax season because they spent money that was never really theirs to spend. My tip here, and this is non-negotiable if you freelance, is to open a separate savings account the day you start freelancing. And every single time you get paid, immediately move 25 to 30% of that payment into the tax account and just pretend it doesn't exist. Treat it like it already left your bank account.
This is the category that people underestimate the most. When you're employed, your company is quietly paying for a lot of things you never see a bill for. Health insurance is the big one. Employers on average cover a significant chunk of your premium, and when you go freelance, that entire cost shifts onto you. Depending on your age, location, and plan, a decent health plan for one person can run you anywhere from $400 to $700 a month, and that's before you actually use it. Then there's retirement. A lot of companies offer a 401k match, which is essentially free money, maybe 3 to 6% of your salary that just shows up in your retirement account because you contributed. As a freelancer, there's no match. If you want that same retirement contribution, you have to generate it yourself, on top of everything else. Add in things like paid time off, sick days, disability insurance, and you start to realize that a W-2 job with a $70,000 salary might actually come with $15,000 to $20,000 worth of benefits baked in that never show up on the salary number at all. So that freelancer making $110,000 with no benefits could actually be worse off than the employee making $70,000 with a full benefits package, once you actually run the math. This one isn't really about a dollar amount. It's about timing, and I think it might actually be the most dangerous part of freelancing. A salaried employee gets the same paycheck every 2 weeks, whether it was a great month or a slow month. A freelancer might make $18,000 in March and $2,000 in April. The average across the year might look totally fine on paper, but living through that swing is a completely different experience than earning a steady income. The problem is that most people's spending habits adjust to their best months, not their average months. You land a big client, you feel flush, and your lifestyle creeps up to match that month. Then the slow month hits and you're pulling from savings, or worse, from a credit card just to cover rent. Do that a few times a year and you can end up with a decent annual income and basically nothing to show for it. The fix here is something a lot of financial advisors call paying yourself a salary. Instead of spending based on what came in that month, you total up your income, average it out, and pay yourself the same modest amount every month into your checking account, regardless of whether that month was a feast or a famine. Everything above that gets parked in a business savings account that acts as a buffer for the slow months. It sounds simple, but it is genuinely the difference between freelancers who feel financially stable and freelancers who are constantly stressed despite making good money.
If a W-2 employee loses their job, in most cases they can file for unemployment benefits while they look for something new. That's a real cushion, even if it's not huge. If a freelancer loses their biggest client, there's no unemployment check coming. There's no severance, there's no HR meeting with a transition package. The income just stops, and it stops immediately. This is exactly why the emergency fund conversation is different for freelancers. The general rule of thumb you'll hear for employees is 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up. For freelancers, I think that number should really be closer to 6 to 12 months, specifically because your income can disappear overnight in a way that a salaried employees usually can't. It's not that freelancers need more money to be happy, they need more of a buffer just to have the same baseline security as somebody with a steady paycheck.
Now let's talk about the mental side of this, because I actually think this is the biggest reason freelancers stay stuck in this pattern. When you're chasing your next invoice, your brain treats every dollar as urgent, something to either spend or worry about, not something to plan around. A lot of freelancers get really good at hustling for the next client and really bad at building systems for the money once it actually arrives. There's also a status trap that mirrors what happens with big purchases like cars or homes. Making 6 figures freelancing sounds impressive, and it's genuinely something to be proud of. But if that number becomes the whole identity, people avoid looking closely at where it's actually going, because the headline number already feels like success. I'd rather you make $85,000 with a real system underneath it than $150,000 with no idea where a third of it disappeared to every year.
Here's my framework, and I think if you follow even 3 of these 5 things, you're going to feel dramatically more secure, regardless of what your income actually is. Number 1, open a dedicated tax savings account and move 25 to 30% of every payment into it the moment it lands. Never touch it except for quarterly taxes. Number 2, pay yourself a flat monthly salary based on your trailing average income, not on what came in that specific month. Let a business buffer account absorb the ups and downs. Number 3, build your emergency fund to 6 to 12 months of expenses, not the standard 3 to 6 months that applies to salaried employees. Number 4, replace the benefits you lost. Look into a solo 401k or a SEP IRA so you can still get meaningful retirement contributions, and actually shop for a health plan instead of just accepting the first quote you see. Number 5, diversify your income sources if you can. If 80% of your income comes from one client, you don't really have a freelance business. You have an unofficial job with none of the protections of an actual job. Even picking up a second or third client, so no single one represents more than 30 to 40% of your income, can dramatically change your risk profile. So the real takeaway here is that freelance income and freelance security are 2 completely different things, and it's entirely possible to have a lot of one and very little of the other. The number on your invoice was never the real story. The real story is what's left. After taxes, after you've replaced your own benefits, after you've built a real buffer for the slow months, and after you've stopped letting your best month set your spending habits for the whole year. If you're freelancing right now and this hit a little close to home, that's a good thing. It means you know exactly where to start. Let me know in the comments what freelance category hits you the hardest, whether it's the tax surprises, the feast and famine cycle, or just not having any kind of safety net. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.